in Cameroon?
All indicators point to a Paul Biya victory, because you must understand that Africa is going through a crisis of leadership. And most of the leaders that have overstayed in power are actually being propped up by a third force, by external forces. And this is a reality across the continent. Cameroon is not operating in an empty space. It's operating within the international governance system. There are many countries today which are crying out for leadership, and Cameroon is one of them. Paul Biya, 85-year-old, has overstayed in power. And had it been that he's not being propped up by foreign occupying forces, he would have been a goner already, because the people do not want him there. He is being considered an invisible candidate. In 2018, he's a ghost candidate. According to the Ambazonians in southern Cameroon, he's being considered an invisible candidate because he's been in power for over 36 years. But he's hardly there in Cameroon, which begs the question, who is in power in Cameroon?
All right, so how does he win the elections then? Are you saying that the elections are rigged, or how does he get past the poll?
There are a number of reasons. One, the rigging of elections cannot be discounted. And secondly, most people in the southern Cameroon did not go to vote. So these are people who have mounted a challenge against Paul Biya. They consider him to be working for the imperialist forces to extract resources from southern Cameroon. They declared independence some 2 years back. They consider themselves as Ambazonia, and a secessionist state. Remember that secession is not a necessity in Africa. Secession is being forced on our peoples because the regimes that are in power do not take care of the local people.
Right. All right, so what we've seen in this particular election, 9 presidential candidates in total. And I wonder, could the opposition have been more unified as opposed to splitting the vote in the way that they've obviously done?
That's a tragedy of Africa. Remember that we are using systems that have been adopted after colonization. We thought that we would discard these systems. After gaining independence, we thought that we would be free, both in terms of systems of governance and systems of economic liberation. This has not happened. Maybe 50 years after independence. And then this democracy that we adopted from the Western nations does not serve our interests. Because what it does, it succeeds in dividing us further. Because the imperialist strategy of divide and rule is very much present with us today. And democracy is one of them. There is no way that a nation divided along political party lines like Cameroon can proceed to...
So what's the alternative to democracy in Africa then, if you're suggesting that perhaps democracy is the problem?
Democracy, as we know it,
yes,
this Westminster democracy that we borrowed does not suit us. I think Muammar Gaddafi came up with a system of democracy based on people's committees, which worked for him. Actually, he managed to turn around.
Not for very long. Eventually, he got toppled, didn't he? But let's move to Cameroon and its present day. And it is a bit of an anomaly because it is still feeling the influences of French and British colonialism. The country has a minority English-speaking peoples. How does the future president, whether it's Paul Biya, whoever it is, bring the people of Cameroon together and start to manage this Anglo-Francophone divide?
These colonial languages have been the bane of our continent. They were supposed to unite the people, French and English. They were supposed to unite the people through these two languages. But in the end, what they have succeeded to do is to split the nation into two halves, which is unnecessary. You must understand that it's not only the language that has divided the people. It was also the judicial system. It is also the education system, which is based on the language. So what essentially we have in Cameroon is the Francophone Cameroon, which has the French system, both in legal terms and it's an education system. And it was imposing that system on its southern neighbors, the Anglophone-speaking Cameroon. And the Anglophone-speaking Cameroon were not happy with that because they found that the intellectuals and the lawyers in southern Cameroon were not being given government positions. So all the government positions were taken up by their neighbors in Francophone Cameroon.
How do you fix it?
African unity is the answer. As I've already said, that secession is not our future. Secession is being forced on us because the regimes are not taking us.
In Cameroon?
To unite the people, we need to take out these aging geriatrics in the name of the Paul Biyas and the Musevenis of this world. That's the only future for Africa. We need to come up with a new generation of leaders in the traditions of Thomas Sankara, in the traditions of Patrice Lumumba's, in the traditions of Samora Machelo's. These are the generation of leaders that liberated us. But unfortunately, we lost them. We need to build a new leadership, a new cadre of leadership for Africa. And we cannot invest our future in pensioners like Paul Biya. This is the bane of our continent. And these leaders are being propped up by the CIAs of this world. We cannot continue like this as Africa because Cameroon is one nation. Despite the cultural diversity that exists among Africans in the world, there is a far greater degree of cultural unity that exists wherever you find Africans in the world. And this is especially obvious in the common African ethos that binds us together as one. Remember that our core values of Ubuntu, collectivism, and egalitarianism are fundamentally present in all the masses everywhere.
All right. Unfortunately, we've run out of time as we do. These discussions could go on for quite long, but we're going to have to leave this one for today. But Mr. Mitole, thanks very much indeed for your insights.
Thank you.
All right, so that was Edward Mitole, a political analyst there, saying that Cameroon needs younger leaders and that the geriatrics need to go. Paul Biya, of course, is now 85 and wants to start another 7th term as president of Cameroon, and he's likely to win by all accounts. We'll have more details on that in future programs. In the meantime, let's take a quick break and we'll have your headlines for you at the top of the hour.